Far in the north, where ice ruled the land, a people were being shaped.
This was Scandinavia, Kynes, beautiful and merciless. Here, survival was never guaranteed. The soil was poor. The summers were short. Hunger was common.
And death was familiar.
So the Vikings were not born to conquer. They were born to survive. Life centered around the Longhouse. It was home, shelter, and survival. The sea fed them when the land could not.
Fishing was life.
Farming was a battle against the earth itself. Iron meant survival.
Skill mattered more than wealth.
Every generation prepared the next.
Stories shaped identity.
Reputation traveled further than gold. A name was everything.
And women held rare power for their age. They owned land.
They could choose divorce.
She guided daily life within the home. Family was survival. The season shaped everyday choices.
Every season was a test. So they looked to the gods, not above them, but among them. Their world was ruled by fate. And wisdom demanded sacrifice. Knowledge was never free in the north. Odin gave up sight to see deeper. His ravens carried whispers of the world. The gods were consulted, not prayed to. Thor stood with the common people.
Thunder was protection.
Strength was sacred. But above gods stood fate. Weird bound every life. No one escaped it.
Fear had no place here.
Courage was taught early.
Death was not the end.
It was a passage.
How you lived decided how you were remembered.
Stories made men immortal.
Legends were born by the hearth.
But the land could not hold them all.
Brothers competed for survival.
The harvest won't last the winter.
Then we must take more from the unclaimed fields.
The horizon promised answers.
The sea was not feared.
It was understood. Wood became opportunity. And skill met ambition. Each knot held a future.
A new kind of vessel was born. Fast, flexible, deadly to distance. It could cross oceans and rivers.
And it would change the world.
The wind shaped the moment. Distance no longer mattered. Borders disappeared. They learned to read the world. Wind spoke. Birds guided them home. Light revealed direction. Even clouds could not hide the sun. Experience replaced maps. The sea was no longer unknown. They did not sail blindly. Each journey had purpose. Patient preparation mattered. Timing was everything. Other lands slept peacefully. They did not know they were being watched. Islands of faith, rich and undefended. No walls, no armies. Silence returned. History held its breath. This was not conquest. It was opportunity. A moment decided centuries. The world
was about to change.
The island woke, as it always had. No warning came from the sea.
Faith felt eternal.
But eternity broke in a single day.
The world they knew ended. News traveled faster than truth. They called it an act of terror. A punishment from God. They had no name for it yet. But they would remember.
Word spread across kingdoms.
Fear followed. Prayers were written in desperation. From the fury of the Northmen, deliver us.
The sea became a threat.
Eyes turned to the horizon. Silence became suspicion.
In the north, life continued.
They did not see themselves as monsters.
Only survivors.
Stories grew larger than truth. A reputation was forming.
Hoity.
The name spread faster than ships. Others began to follow. The sea opened again. This was no longer chance.
It was the beginning of something larger.
The storm had been named.
And Europe would never forget it. It did not stop at one island. Others stood just as exposed.
And the sea carried memory.
Fear learned to recognize the signs. Riches lay unguarded.
But in the north,
Land was still scarce.
families kept growing.
Not everyone could inherit.
So they looked outward.
This was not madness.
They were undefended.
Speed mattered more than destruction.
They did not stay.
They returned home.
To survive another winter. This was economy, not chaos.
Life continued.
Europe gave them a name. A name shaped by fear.
But they did not call themselves that.
They were farmers.
Sailors.
Craftsmen.
And sometimes
They were shaped by ice and driven by need.
the world would remember their arrival. But it would take centuries to understand them.
Fear slowly became awareness.
Eyes stayed fixed on the horizon.
Defenses began to rise. The world learned. To listen to the sea.
No shore felt distant anymore.
They learned patterns. Ships evolved.
Journeys grew bolder.
Not every landing brought fear.
Trade followed. So did ideas. Years passed. Children grew into sailors.
Memory replaced fear. The horizon kept expanding. Rivers opened continents. Distance lost meaning. Stories grew darker. Reality stayed human.
Trade balanced terror.
History chose its villains. But truth moved quietly.
The age of lone raids was ending.
Something larger was forming.
Not chaos. But power.
Europe felt it coming. The storm was no longer sudden.
After the waves came quiet.
But quiet never meant peace.
Only waiting.
The old world was changing. Berlin hardened. The next generation prepared. New lands waited, unseen. Odin still watched. Fate pulled its threads. Nothing could stop what was coming.
Stories outlived witnesses.
Truth became legend.
Legend demanded more.
And the North responded.
This was no longer survival alone. It was ambition. The world beyond waited.
And it sensed the shift.
This time it would not be brief.
The storm was learning to last.
Bands became armies!
England would feel it first.
unaware.
This was no visit!
It was arrival.
Propelled to stay.
Power had found form.
Europe would face a new kind of enemy.
And history would never look away again. In the year 793, the silence broke.
Europe was unprepared.
There were no walls, no armies. Only faith.
The sea carried strangers.
Warning came too late.
The attack was swift.
And unexpected.
For monks, it was terror.
For Vikings, it was survival. And opportunity.
Word spread faster than ships.
Fear found language. The world marked the spot.
Bells rang in warning.
Prayers filled the air.
From the fury of the Northmen.
The sea became an enemy.
Every sail was suspect.
Fear learned to wait. And to remember.
In the north, the story sounded different.
This meant winter survival.
Oh! Not terror. Not madness.
But strategy. Others learned quickly. Patterns began to form. This was no accident. The storm was organizing.
And Europe was about to feel it again.
The North was changing.
More mouths, same land.
Land could not be divided forever. Not everyone would inherit.
One bad winter could end a family.
Survival demanded choices. The winter demands are too high. Our people suffer.
We cannot break the truce now.
Power was unstable. Local conflicts displaced families.
Some chose exile.
Others chose the sea.
Across the water, another reality existed.
Wealth concentrated, unguarded.
Protected by faith, not walls.
The contrast was impossible to ignore.
Opportunity revealed itself.
They chose speed.
Not occupation. Not conquest.
Destruction slowed escape.
Speed ensured survival.
Raids fed families.
And secured winters.
Success created momentum. Raiding became routine.
Roots became knowledge.
Knowledge became advantage.
Europe began to understand. Preparation replaced surprise!
Fear became policy.
But the storm kept growing.
The sound of warning spread first.
Eyes turned to the horizon.
Even a sail meant danger.
Panic became procedure. Flight replaced defense.
Stories traveled faster than ships. Patterns began to appear.
Faith struggled to explain fear.
Words tried to summon protection. From the fury of the Northmen, deliver us.
The situation required careful thought.
The moment reflected hesitation and uncertainty. Protection came too late.
Change unfolded over time. Wealth moved inland.
Fear shaped memory.
The name became the weapon. Sometimes no landing was needed.
Victory without contact!
Reputation saved time. Raids were evolving. They planned to remain. Short visits became seasons. The storm was settling.
The Vikings were no longer passing through.
Not every journey carried war.
Trade offered survival without blood. Silver became the true prize. Trust crossed languages. Rivers replaced roads.
Cultures met without swords.
Cultures met without swords. Trade extended beyond water. Islamic silver fueled the north. Wealth returned home.
The world widened.
Cities unlike anything they had seen.
Goods became ideas. Knowledge traveled both ways.
They returned changed.
Trade reshaped daily life.
Status evolved.
Power reorganized.
Ambition grew. Journeys extended. Temporary camps lasted longer. Outposts became anchors. Familiarity replaced fear.
The visitor became neighbor.
Some lands tempted permanence.
Land replaced loot. The journey slowed.
Roots began to form.
The Vikings were staying.
temporary became permanent.
Shelter became ownership. Land replaced the sea.
Authority took root.
Fear turned into agreement.
Control arrived quietly.
Stability replaced chaos.
Defense became governance.
Rule required order to Ida.
New societies formed. Europe adjusted. Faith adapted. Trade flourished. Cultures merged.
The invader became ruler. Survival had evolved. Movement slowed.
The storm rested. But exploration never ended.
New horizons waited.
Beyond known lands.
Freedom called again! Not for gold.
But for land.
And independence.
The world was opening.
Unclaimed.
Unwritten. The next chapter awaited. The journey continues.
Some journeys were not for conquest, but escape.
The scene remains quiet and unchanged.
They fled revenge. Freedom lay beyond the known world.
A new land emerged!
But empty! No kings waited!
only possibility. They began again.
Land was shared, not seized.
Survival still demanded work.
But effort promised independence. The moment felt shared and calm.
Disputes needed order.
Law replaced force. Rules lived in memory.
Justice belonged to everyone. A gathering place was chosen.
Once a year,
All voices met. Words carried power. Violence was restrained. Order without rulers.
This was an experiment.
A society built on agreement and responsibility.
But some still looked further west.
Not all found peace.
Old feuds followed them. Erik Thorvaldsen carried a reputation. Violence brought consequences.
You are exiled. Leave this land now.
Exile was chosen over execution. Punishment became direction.
West lay only rumor.
And stubborn hope. The sea tested resolve. Land answered. Greenland!
Unforgiving.
Yet alive.
Survival was possible.
if others would follow.
Exile did not end him.
It sharpened him. Woo! Greenland. Words could shape destiny.
A land promised green.
Hope-filled sails. They followed belief.
Not raiders, settlers.
Life crossed oceans. Greenland took shape.
Endurance defined success. The known world expanded. Exile created empire. Survival proved mastery. And the next generation watched.
Still, the horizon whispered.
Leif Erikson inherited more than land.
Stories became maps.
New information slowly circulated. The details drew quiet attention. Thoughts drifted in silence. No kings commanded this voyage.
Only courage.
Signs guided them.
Land rose from myth.
Exploration, not empire. Resources mattered. They were not alone.
Caution replaced conquest.
Exchange came first. But distance remained.
Finland was visited.
Not claimed. Stories returned with them.
But belief was fragile.
Distance defeated memory.
History looked away.
But the land remembered. Proof waited centuries. Vinland was real.
Years early.
The world grew smaller.
Discovery alone was not enough.
Distance drained strength.
Too few followed. Support lines failed.
Survival demanded retreat.
Others guarded their lands. Caution replaced confidence.
risk.
Leaving ensured survival.
And so they departed.
Life demand attention elsewhere.
Stories became whispers. Belief weakened. Memory thinned.
History turned away, while power gathered elsewhere. Stone replaced sailcloth. Authority centralized.
The nation gave way to rule.
The world demanded order.
Freedom narrowed.
Borders replaced horizons.
The age of wandering faded.
The ocean grew quiet.
The edge was no longer sought.
Power changed shape.
Freedom demanded obedience. Belief shifted. Explorers became subjects. The next chapter begins.
The western edge fell silent.
Journeys grew rare. Explorers became caretakers.
Discovery lived only in memory.
Maps closed where courage once opened them.
Law endured.
So did resilience.
Connection replaced exploration. Survival now meant stability.
Purpose changed.
Elsewhere, power consolidated.
The age of open land closed.
New beliefs followed order.
Old gods withdrew quietly.
Freedom met authority.
The sea rested.
edges were no longer chased.
Time claimed courage. But memory remained.
Waiting.
They had crossed the world.
And chose to stay.
Change arrived quietly.
A new era dawned.
Old and new coexisted.
Power demanded crowns.
And obedience. War changed shape.
So did the Vikings.
The Viking Age was entering its final form.
Those who had seen the edge grew old. Their children inherited a settled world.
Adventure became legend.
Truth blurred into myth.
And memory replaced movement.
Words fixed what waves once carried.
The unknown shrank. Risk no longer ruled. Stability replaced daring. The horizon stopped calling. But the sea never forgets. It waits. For those brave enough to listen. Stories carved in wood and bone.
Still speaking.
Strength now answered to law.
Authority replaced challenge.
Violence became last, not first.
Faith reshaped loyalty. Old beliefs survived quietly.
The edge of the world closed. Not in defeat.
But in choice. The sea had given enough. Now others would rule.
Power demanded walls.
And permanence. The age of kings rose!
Explorers watched silently. The world had moved on. The last line was drawn. Direction no longer mattered. Those who had gone far rested. The fire dimmed.
But the stars remained.
The sea keeps secrets. It takes no names. Only stories. Left behind. And slowly reclaimed. Adventure archived.
The next generation learned differently.
Order replaced instinct. Exploration became art.
Freedom narrowed.
Security grew.
Predictability replaced risk. Power centralized. The age of rulers dawned. The edge of the world remained. But no one chased it. They had found enough.
Enough land. Enough life. Enough life.
They reached farther than remembered and returned quietly.
The world changed.
Because they dared.
And then they stayed. The world the Vikings entered had changed.
They no longer arrived as strangers. They arrived as equals. New patterns began to take shape across the region. Raids became rule. Temporary camps turned permanent. Shelter became stronghold. Force became protection. Life continued in steady rhythms. Daily life continued through simple exchanges. Warriors became kings. Land was claimed by law.
In the west, Normandy was born.
In the east, power flowed along rivers. And England stood reshaped. Justice replaced plunder.
Rules replaced reputation. Power learned restraint.
Even names changed.
Identity shifted.
The Vikings were becoming European.
But strength remained.
Now guided by ambition.
The sea still served power.
The Viking world had narrowed. But its influence had deepened. Faith offered legitimacy. Kings watched carefully. Symbols followed authority. Beliefs overlapped. Conversion came slowly. Rule required permanence. Power now shared space.
Wealth was organized.
Infrastructure replaced plunder.
Control became routine. Diplomacy replaced surprise.
Territory mattered.
Recognition replaced fear.
The North was accepted.
The world closed in.
Fighting became profession.
Chaos was refined. Loyalty Loyalty shifted! Not to glory! But to command!
Songs grew quieter.
Memory changed form.
Symbols disappeared. New rhythms ruled. Old faith survived quietly.
Power gathered! Ambition sharpened!
The sea lay open and still. A final reckoning approached. The last chapter had begun. Power gathered in rooms, not fields. Decisions traveled faster than ships. Lines hardened. Resources organized. War became planned. Time moved toward change. They learned discipline.
Tradition met order.
Resistance faded.
Faith unified rule.
Power claimed divine order.
Old gods watched silently.
Identity was sealed. There would be no return. The sea waited.
But it was no longer needed.
Sailing served borders. Purpose changed. The age of wandering closed. Pressure built.
Succession mattered.
Legacy sharpened conflict. Silence before decision.
The final storm approached.
Bloodlines replaced bravery.
Succession decided futures.
I swear fealty to you, my lord, before Almighty God.
Claims multiplied.
Walt Lima with a milk in them.
Words triggered wars. borders trembled. The north no longer looked Norse.
Language shifted power. Shifted power.
Faith shaped decisions.
Heroes became history.
Even names changed. The ship became symbol.
Not a tool.
The sea answered walls.
Not horizons.
Wandering ended. England became the prize.
The North ruled England.
But acceptance was fragile. Two worlds overlapped.
Stability cracked.
Time accelerated.
Claims hardened.
Across the sea. Another power waited.
Preparation replaced patience. The throne weakened.
Too many heirs.
War rehearsed.
Promises tightened nooses. The final year approached. England waited. So did its rivals.
Old roots reopened. No chaos, only planning.
Three claims. One throne.
But for legacy.
England watched.
The year arrived. In 1066. Not a battle. But a decision.
An age waited.
then passed.
Without ceremony.
The world chose kings
and left explorers behind.
A new order stood.
The Viking Age closed.
But the people remained.
Bloodlines blended.
Language remembered.
So did courage. So did courage.
The world they touched endured. They did not vanish. They adapted. They became part of us.
This was not an end,
but a beginning.
When the noise ended,
the world kept moving.
history rarely waits. News spread faster than memory.
Power reorganized.
Stone replaced sails.
The North adjusted.
Viking blood remained.
Identity softened. Belief changed slowly.
Normans remembered the sea.
But ruled on land.
In the east, they governed. In the south, they traded. The Viking world transformed. Some stories faded. New ones replaced them.
The sea fell silent.
Movement changed direction.
Authority centralized. Curiosity endured. So did innovation. Adaptation replaced conquest. Movement without violence. The world was measured. Order returned. The raiders aged. But memory stayed. The sea still listened. The story was not over. Every age leaves a base. The North reshaped land. Settlement replaced raiding.
Connection replaced isolation.
Trade became stability. Lineage was preserved. Law replaced strength. Words replaced weapons. Honor found new form. Memory became rule. Names survived centuries. Language carried echoes.
Identity blended naturally.
Old art endured quietly. Symbols outlived belief. The sea remained. Navigation was inherited. Knowledge expanded.
Movement without fear.
Exploration changed purpose. The sagas softened. Oral became written. Even enemies preserved them. Knowledge replaced legend. Stories found safety. Violence retreated. Culture unified. Memory faded. The land remembered. The Vikings remained beneath everything.
Time does not erase. It reshapes. Names fade.
Habits remain.
Words survive quietly.
Land remembers hands. Blood travels unnoticed.
Courage repeats!
So does curiosity.
Movement. Movement defines us. Adaptation is survival.
Cities grow.
The ocean still calls. Exploration never ended. We study what shaped us.
Past and present meet. The Vikings were not a moment.
They were a process.
Change was their greatest weapon. Survival was their gift. Legacy was the result. No ending was announced.
No victory declared.
No defeat remembered.
Only inheritance.
Passed hand to hand. They did not disappear. They adapted. They endured. They became us.